Hello, this is Mavidat, and I am responding to a video by Noah Veritas48 entitled The Argument from Facts of Normativity, in which Noah attempts to prove or infer the existence of God from normative arguments, the fact that we are obligated to do certain things. I will reiterate this argument, and then I will offer my criticism in the form of 4 distinct objections, and then I will offer a secular way out of the dilemma that he presents. My conclusion will be that first, teleology, or God, does not improve our situation with respect to deriving oughts any more than science or mere description does. That is to say, neither of them are helpful by themselves, since Telos ultimately reduces to a description of some being's intent or purpose. So it's ultimately just another form of description. And second, that a satisfactory solution to the problem of deriving oughts can be reached that is neutral to the question of God, in the sense that it won't depend on God, but neither will it deny the existence of God per se. So here's a reiteration of Noah's argument. He says that, first of all, secular morality is baseless, and that, or it's not well-founded, and secondly, that theism can provide this good foundation for morality that's lacking without God. So the reason why he believes that secularism, morality in the secular framework is baseless, is that he believes that morality without God is committed to deriving oughts from mere descriptions of the material world. In other words, from science. But scientific descriptions can only tell us the way things are. They don't tell us what to do. So you can know that there are, like, people starving in Africa, but no amount of scientific investigation is going to tell you to take care of them. It's just something that we feel. So therefore, there's no basis for morality in a secular framework, according to Noah. However, with God, we're provided with an ultimate intentionality for our behavior and actions in this world. And as with the example by J.P. Moreland, when you know the purpose for the brakes on your car, then you understand what it means for them to be properly functioning. The idea of proper or right behavior takes meaning when given in the language of teleos, or purpose, or intentionality, as from a creator. So therefore, God is supposed to provide this intentionality and therefore provide a basis for morality. So I'm gonna just grant you that oughts cannot be derived from ises. There's a lot of discussion that we could have here, but frankly, I agree with you. So I'm not gonna go there. My first objection, though, will be that even with a God, we're no better off than with science in deriving rules of conduct or right behavior. And the reason is because that even if we suppose that a God existed with intentionality for all of his creation and such, as you want, merely enumerating his intentions tells us nothing about whether we ought or ought not to align our motives with those intentions. I mean, think about if an alien species had created us. Would we find it inherently obligatory for us to obey their intention in creating us? I mean, what if they intended us for a purely selfish motive to collect all of our resources and send it off to them or something like that? Would we think that it was our obligation to obey them? No, it doesn't make sense that the mere creation of some thing gives you the right to tell other people how to use that thing. Okay. So, but the reason why we're drawn to agree with this conclusion with the brakes example is that our interests happen to align with the creator's interests, intention, in that brakes example, because the creator of the brakes wants the brakes to or design that so that they stop the car, and we want them to stop the car, and so our interests align with the creator's intention. That's what gives your example its normative thrust, not the description of the brake's creator's purpose alone. When the intention of the user deviates from the creator's intended purpose, then it's not at all clear that we ought to follow the Creator's purpose. Indeed, the purposes that users put to some objects often diverges from the intention of that object that the Creator had. For example, computers were originally intended to be business machines. Cotton swabs are not intended for cleaning ears. If you look at the box, it tells you that. And the show MacGyver is full of other examples that you can take a look at. So the point is just that the mere description of someone's intention, the Creator's intention, does not tell you that you ought to do anything. Now you may want to say that God's purpose does align with our best interests, thus providing the necessary link between His intention and our motive to align with that intention. However, if you do this, you've still got all your work ahead of you, since you have to give an independent account of our best interests that is not merely the same as pointing to God's intention, for we need a way of determining if God is really on our side, ontologically speaking. It is no help to define God as on our side, having our best interests in mind, because then you will not have elucidated the meaning of our best interest. So you'll have defined God in terms of something which is lacking definition. So, for example, health is not defined by obeying a doctor. Health is defined by a certain state of well-being or feeling of constitution. And we only identify the doctors that know the way to health by first identifying what health even is. So the second point is that there are many, and the reason, this second objection is the source of the first objection, is that there are many cases of normativity not depending on purpose, so Telos. Any kind of social contract, rational self-interest, conventional morality or virtue ethics, all of these don't depend on Telos. And we seem to do fine in making judgments about what's right or wrong without asking what's the ultimate purpose for our behavior in any of those situations. I know that I have to pay my brother back, or I ought to pay my brother back the money that he lent me, not because I infer that God had this intention for me at the outset of creation, but because I care about my brother and I have a implicit contract maybe with him. Or if you like, you could say more modestly that you have to give a better argument that normativity depends on Telos. Your car brake analogy is just not sufficient. It's not doing it. It's true that sometimes the description of the Creator's purpose gives us an insight about what proper functioning is, but it depends, again, as I said, that our interests align with the Creator's purpose. And the third and last objection is that you assume that we have to justify our beliefs using science or mere description. This is not correct. And there's a clue as to why this is not correct, and which is that if it's correct that science is supposed to justify ethics, then what justifies our engagement or commitment to science? Nothing. It's just baseless. We just do it in a vacuum. That doesn't make sense. If anything, it seems as if normative reasoning justifies science, the other way around. For example, we say that science is good for humanity, it's fun, it's good to further our learning, science betters our standards of living, those sorts of things. In fact, there's no way to justify commitment to morality without already being committed to it. Bernard Williams makes exactly this argument in this book entitled Ethics and the Limits of Philosophy. I really recommend that you take a look at it. It's very good for kind of debunking this assumption that philosophers have had since the time of Plato, that we have to somehow give a coercive account to the psychopath in order to force them to be good. They don't care about being good, but just by pure argument we can force them to be good. This is completely misguided. No amount of reasoning is going to convince someone who doesn't care about anything to be good. Normativity, ethics, is arrived at or justified simply by caring, by jumping into it feet first, as it were. If you don't already care about ethics or other people, no amount of describing God's intentions or science or anything is going to help or going to make you care. The way out of this is to think of objective morality as a social phenomenon, one that depends on interaction between individuals. So this is my solution. First of all, the sense of we can give sense to objective morality by thinking of it in terms of